Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. At a time when nearly every channel of US-Russia cooperation is frozen under sanctions, one partnership still endures: in orbit. Later this month, the Soyuz MS-28 will launch from Kazakhstan's Baikonur Cosmodrome, carrying 2 Russian cosmonauts and 1 American astronaut to the International Space Station. Despite the war in Ukraine, space remains one of the few bridges between the countries. Joining me to explain why and what it means is Maciej Myśliwiec, founder of the Space Agency. Maciej, welcome back to TVP World. Thank you very much for taking the time.
Hello again. I'm very glad to be with you today.
You're very welcome. So, why is this different to all of the other channels of communication between Russia and the United States at the moment? In other words, why are there both the Russian and Americans going into space together?
This is pretty easy, even if we may think it's not proper, because we know how the cooperation looks like on different fields, right? But what's important is that they built the International Space Station together in 1998. The first modules have been launched to the orbit. Actually, a couple days ago, we had the 25th anniversary of human presence in space, constant presence for last 25 years. We are together in orbit, and we have to remember that ISS, International Space Station, is the project which needs all of the partners. They need US, they need Russia, they need Japan, they need Canada, they need European Space Agency, and all the partners who dedicated their efforts for this quarter of the century. Right now, they still cooperate, but this cooperation is different. It's not like very. It's not so strong as it used to be, right? We have 2 parts of ISS. One part is US and European and Japan, and the second part, the second segment, is created by Russia. And for example, some of the astronauts, for example, European astronauts, are not allowed to visit Russian modules because of the regime which is here set for this. But we have to remember that the systems are for all the parts of ISS, right? So if we have, for example, oxygen systems or the toilets and other things, they have to work together with both sides of the contract. That is why it's still happening. But if you tell about the Soyuz, we have to remember that US has Dragon spacecrafts right now, which are private spacecrafts to ISS run by SpaceX, but they still need to transfer the crews up to the orbit. So sometimes they just buy the seat for US astronaut in Soyuz.
Okay, now, as you just said, the ISS, the International Space Station, has been in service for 25 years. How much longer is it going to stay up there or keep doing its job? And what happens when it's finally retired? Will Russia and America no longer share spacecraft?
Yeah, this is a very important question, because we spent 25 years together in orbit, but the contract for ISS, let's say the agreement for ISS, is set to 2030. So we have 5 years left to execute all these experiments on ISS. But for now, Russia said that they're just resigning from extending the life cycle of ISS because they have no money. At the same time, US also stated that they're not gonna fund ISS much longer than 2030 because they are not sure they want to keep it alive. We have to remember this is the very old machinery for now because it's 25 years plus years of the construction. So there's like a 40-year old house without the renovations. So in 2030 we expect ISS to be shut down and to be deorbit. So it will be burned in the atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean. And after that, Russia recently announced that they want to create their own space station without other partners. But honestly speaking, I don't believe it's going to happen because this is a very, very expensive project. But at the same time, we have Chinese station in orbit, and they're already inviting astronauts or cosmonauts from other countries to visit. And we are expecting that two companies will create their private space stations. One is Axiom, which is the company which is cooperating with SpaceX and bringing astronauts to ISS. For example, our Polish astronaut recently flew on Axiom 4 mission. And the second company is called VAST. And VAST wants to create the space station which will be visited by Dragon spacecraft, but it's not going to be like independent. It will need the spacecraft which will produce the oxygen and will give them the opportunity to stay on board with the life support systems. So for now, we expect and we believe that within 5 years we may be without a space station, right? So it's the last 5 years to run everything we need.
Yes, but it certainly doesn't mean that there will be no presence in space of all of these countries that you've just mentioned. You say that you doubt Russia will do it on its own. Is it likely that Russia will partner with China in some kind of space exploration? I don't know how active China actually is, and maybe this might be an opportunity for it to get up there, get up into space.
China is very active, and China actually is becoming the strong actor in the space industry. We have to remember that they have their own space station. They have their own spaceship, which is called Shenzhou, and Shenzhou is, of course, created based on Russian Soyuz because Russia in 1990s sold some of the technologies to China, and their technologies are growing up. We have to remember that China landed on Moon twice. They landed on the far side of the Moon, and they had their rovers, and they are planning to land on Mars. But I'm not sure that they will want to cooperate with Russia here, because for now they are developed much more than Russia, and they don't have these financial problems which Russia has. So I don't believe it's going to happen. But at the same time, we have to remember that we're waiting for one project to be reopened, which is called the Gateway, Lunar Gateway, which will be the space station in the orbit of the Moon, and it will be also the base for the lunar exploration. So it's gonna be, let's say, the stop for astronauts before landing on the Moon. But for now, U.S. government is not ready to state that they wanna reopen the project. For now, it's on hold. But China is very independent, and they may cooperate somehow in the orbit with Russia and other countries. But we have to remember that Russia will still have their Soyuz spacecraft, which is for now is almost 60-year-old construction. But at the same time, this is in the history, this is the only spacecraft with such a long story of operations. And I think they will look for some solutions. Maybe they will visit Chinese space station, but for sure they will be able to do some short-term missions on board Soyuzes. But this is the step back. We have to remember that we need the space station to keep our presence in space, and we have to remember that we need to build up the station to explore more. So I hope within the next 2-3 years we'll be informed that this kind of project will be conducted.
Understood. Well, thank you very much for laying all of that out for us, Maciej. As always, a great pleasure to hear your analysis, and have a good evening, sir.
You too. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And that brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. But as always, don't go away. Lots more coming up. Goodbye.